Thank you, all people who joined this conference. And I have the feeling all of you are interested in the question of how do we prepare the future. And the future, that is something which is not there yet, but in the same time, that is there already in our minds. If we want to, we can get the future already into our minds. And I would like to start with some problems before I go over to the question how we can prepare the future. We are in a time where everything is falling apart, really everything. More and more families fall apart, our villages fall apart, our economic system falls apart. The trust to each other is falling apart, and we see it everywhere that can't go on like that. The climate is on danger, our soil is on danger. Just to say also our soil, for example, over the last 70 years, we lost 50% of all our humus, 50%. Hardly anybody is talking about that, but that is the foundation of all our life. And we lost it, the half of it already. And more also conventional economists are talking about the crash of our economic system, of our worldwide economic system. And I ask you, did you ever hear of your government discussion how we can come out of this situation? Does it exist, a plan B? Does it exist? The government doesn't have a plan B. The question to you, do you have a plan B if our system is crashing? Do you know how to carry on if you don't have a pension tomorrow anymore? Do you know how to carry on if your work is gone? How do you carry on if maybe the energy is not supported? The energy support is not there. How do you carry on? Do you have a plan B? Generally, the people don't have a plan B. So how do we carry on if the thing is breaking together and we are in the midst of it? How to carry on? So that is something, a question where slowly more and more people are awakening to this question. Yes, what happened tomorrow if nothing holds anymore? If no insurance is there anymore, no account is there anymore, all your money is gone, how do you carry on? The first question, of course, is there, do you have neighbors where you can rely on? Do you have neighbors to rely on? Do you have a family to rely on? Do you have a farmer to rely on, which should support you with food? Do you have that organized already? Does your house have a question, is it solved already, the question of energy with your house? And all these questions that arise now. There are many people around who like to survive or make plans for surviving just for themselves. For example, I know a doctor in my neighborhood in Switzerland. He is a very intelligent person. He says, yeah, our system is soon breaking together. And what does he do? He has bunkered in many thousand liters of oil. He has some weapons. He has food for 5 years. He has water. He has everything what he needs. And the weapons he has really, he says, if it comes to this crash, the people from the cities, they come up and will try to rob you. So, and I told him, look, John, I would do it exactly the other way around. I would open my doors. I would discuss with the people what to do now. I would share my things. Because if we start to look just for myself, that would be a guerre, not just a civil guerre, between some groups, but that would be again everybody against everybody. Everybody is trying to survive. And the forests, they will be very soon gone because people, they don't have oil anymore. So they burn everything which is there. So that will be a total chaos if we are just on the way of everybody is looking after himself. So I say we need to look in another way to this question. We need to look in such a way to the future with that question, how can we help each other to survive? Because I'm alone, I have no chance. Okay, I can maybe survive for 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years, but we need to look to each other. How can we help each other to survive? And all that what I'm saying now, that is not a theory. I am a practical person, and I have built up myself 2 ecological villages, and I'm an advisor since more than 30 years for communities and city planning with this question of how can we go into the future. So, as I said, that is not a theory now what I'm telling you, that is coming out of practical experience. Not just the practical things like how we can find food, but even the question of our money. I developed another system of economy and another system of money. I will briefly share that also with you. Now, the first thing what we are needing is food. There is really the question, what is your relationship to a farmer or to the farmers around you? Do you have a relationship with them? Generally, the people today, they don't have a relationship because today we get our food from a supermarket and on plus very cheaply. We try to buy it cheaply and not to pay the right price for it. And we don't get it organically generally, but from a field where they are spraying poison and which is destroying our soil. So we should need to develop a relationship to a farmer, to an organic farmer, to a biodynamic farmer, and try to find a relationship so that whatever comes, that we can trust each other. And one must say also that a farmer today, he or she is also financially, generally, very much in debt. So much in debt that the most farmers today, they are with their debt here and they hardly know how to survive. So they got a new debt maybe and calculated on a certain price for their products. But finally, the supermarket chains, they try to press them and to reduce the price even more. And that is also up to us because we only want to pay the least as possible. So how can we now develop in the relationship with a farmer? Sorry when I talk between a little bit Francais. I'm living in Switzerland in the French-speaking part, so sorry for that. This new relationship to a farmer, that needs to be one which is in the first place on a very personal level. Did you ever ask your farmer, what does he need? Where the problems are? Did you ever ask him how many hours he is working? Did you ever ask him if he can survive still for next year? And then you will see in what kind of drastic situation we are. You know that we are today already completely dependent on the international companies which are surviving, which are supporting us with all the raw material like iron, like oil and everything. We are completely dependent on them. The only thing where we have still a chance to be a little bit independent, that is if we are doing something with the farmers. Now imagine also that part will be robbed. And that is already in more and more countries, that big companies are buying all the land and making us more and more even dependent, even on our food. Just one little example, there's more than 95% of all the seed is coming from big companies like Monsanto. And this seed, to bring out really a good crop, they need also poison. So we are completely dependent on them. There are only few little companies which are producing seed, which is still renewable, which you can put yourself into the ground again after you harvested your vegetables or whatever. Generally, that is not possible with the seed today. We are completely dependent on the seed of the big companies. But we have also organic seed that exist. There are people are working on it. Seed which we can regrow again, like it was in the olden times. And that is possible to support this kind of seed growing companies. And the farmer with whom we are working together should also use this kind of seed so that we have a future. And I tell you, the other side, for example, the side of energy, we are completely dependent unless we start to think also in a region or in a neighborhood to organize it a little bit differently. That we organize something with solar panels or with many more insulation around our houses. That should be, by the way, always the first things that we try to use less. And then the rest, what we are needing, then with alternative energy. So, but coming back to the farmer, if we try to understand the farmer, and if we understand that he is generally living with a big debt, we could see together how we can solve this question of debt. We could put our money together and help him to come out there. We could, for example, help that he also puts his farm maybe into a trust, into a foundation, so that his son can't just sell his farm, because when we help him today and his son, he isn't interested anymore in his farm, he would be the possibility to sell. But that would be the end of our relationship with the farmer. So what we need, that is the farmer which is agreeing to find a new form of right, so that the farm never can be sold anymore, but rest to make food for the community. I myself, I have done that with many farms, also my two farms on the two villages which I created. We put there also the farms also into a trust. So nobody can sell this farm anymore. That is the foundation, the security for the farmer, but also for us. So that is one level. And on the other side, we could ask the farmer also, what do you need to grow the food for us in a healthy way, and at the same time not destroying the humus layer, but maybe even building up the humus layer? What do you need to do that? What kind of money do you need? What kind of help do you need to restructure your farm that is possible? And to go into this discussion with the farmer, that is the most important thing. The farmer finally feels understood, and we also understand what kind of situation the farmer is. We need to find new bridges. After all these years, we cut the bridges to the farms. We need now to create a new bridge. And that exist in Europe now many, many communities, mainly in cities, which are talking with the farmer and try to find a new relationship, a completely new relationship, and that they are not buying in the old way the food anymore, but that they are supporting the farmer in that what he is needing. And in return, this community in the city, for example, gets the food what the farm is growing, what the earth is giving to us. It is a completely different thinking. We are not buying the food, but that will be a gift. And we make sure that our farmer, that he can survive. That is a completely different thinking, and not anymore buying cheap. We are destroying ourselves with that, but now to support our farmer. And I know, for example, my farm, which I built up, we had once a month, we had an open day. We offered a half a day work, which is more a social thing than a real help for the farmer, but everybody helped a half a day. And then we had a nice meal, and then we had music and dancing, and the children came with us. And that was really a new thought the community came about. And on our place, for example, through this came about also a kindergarten. People started to see, oh, that is so nice for the children to be on the kindergarten, which is on a farm. The children see every day the animals. The children are every day connected back with reality. Every day connected with reality, the children. And that is needed for the new generation, that they can think themselves. If you observe the reality yourself, you can also think yourself. If you observe the world only with a laptop or with a digital media, that is not the reality, and children never learn really to think really for themselves. We need to find a relation to the reality. And this connection to a farm, I tell you, that will be finally the most important for our society. The farms of the future, that will be the healing places of our destroyed social life, of our destroyed economic life, of our destroyed cultural life. A new life has to come from the farms. And of course, we need much more in our life, but that starts. It is one side what we need, the farm, the connection, a new connection, a responsible connection again to a farm, to the land, which nourishes us, and also to say, in Europe, we need generally 2,200 square meters per person agricultural land for our nutrition. 2,200 square meters. Every person needs that. Let's say if there in the city 100 people come together, they would need a farm which has around 22 hectares. Or 200 people, a farm with 44 hectares. That is a figure which is an average, because that is for the average quality of land. So if you are a community of 100 people, look for a farmer which has 22 hectares, and then make an arrangement. Try to help him to free the land from the bank, bring it into a foundation, and ask him what does he need to survive. And then this community can bring together every month that what the farmer needs. And you get in return your food. That is one of the ways, and that is one of the ideal ways. I'm talking now always about the ideal. On the way to this ideal, of course, we need to make many compromises, but that is something which is extremely important to understand. To make myself responsible for 2,200 square meters. That I do, by the way, already in that moment when I get my food in the supermarket. I decide every day what kind of product I take. If I take a bio or biodynamic product, or if I take a conventional product. I decide every day if my piece of land will be spread and destroyed or not. I decide that every day. So the change doesn't start really with a big politic, but the change of the future starts already also with my behavior of buying. I'm still in the process of buying always the cheapest. For example, the cheapest from Asia, from China. And what do I do with that? Okay, I was winning something in that moment, but maybe the shop next door, he has to close because we are buying just cheaply. Mm-hmm. That is just like we are shooting into our own foot. And we are just buying cheaply, instead of paying the right price for it. So coming back to this farm, now imagine people like to support that farm in a further way, that they say, oh, that would be good if on that farm there would be also a mill and a bakery. Imagine that. That would give work to some people to build up a mill and a bakery. And this food chain would be even more secure. The food chain we start to control. That is not a big supermarket chain or a chain of mills, but we start to control this. That the grain will be milled and made into bread. And imagine now there's also somebody amongst us who likes to build up a coffee or a little restaurant at the farm. That is the next step in this development chain of economy. Or imagine people like this place so much, and you would like, and you start even a little guest house or a little hotel on that farm, which we did also in our communities. So that brings again work to people. And now the next, imagine, there would be a kindergarten on that farm, there would be a cheesery on that farm, and there would be not only this little hotel, but because it is so inspiring, there would be a little school on that farm for children, but also for adults, that they can also learn how to create a new life. So, and finally, you have maybe 100, 200 people. The two villages which I built up, they have now 150, one village, and the other has, there are living 200 people. And now imagine one is asking oneself, what do I do for this world? And one of the big needs that is also to look after especially young people which don't find their way anymore. Look how many young people can't find their way anymore. They're taking maybe drugs after a while. And imagine one would take on a place like this, for example, dozens of youngsters to help them to find their way again. There one would do directly something for society and for the future. And now I like to say another thing too in this direction. I know many communities as an advisor, alternative communities, which have the aim of self-sufficiency, growing everything what you need just for yourself. And these communities, they are not seeing that nearly everything what else they need, they take from the world. They take their cars from this world. They take their laptops, the school system, the health system, everything they take from society, but they never ask them really, what is our task to do for society? What is our task to make for the world? And in my eyes, only a community, out of my experience, the many experience with communities, which I was consulting and built up myself, really my biggest sign, or my biggest learning point is there. A community has only a chance to survive if a community is there not for its own sake, but for the sake of doing something for the world. Then one has a chance of surviving. The other communities, which are just there for self-sustainability, they are generally, after 2 or 3 years, they are breaking either completely apart, or they are constantly changing of people. And that is a, how can I say, a certain egoism, a group egoism. People come just together to do it for themselves. But a group which comes together to do something for this world has the possibility really to create a new world and to give hope to many, many other people, to the people which might just come to drink a coffee in your community, or to the people which might, or to the children which might be in your kindergarten, or to the people which are just buying something in your shop. Yeah. People come and they get a piece of hope and ask you often also, can I also live in this community? So what we need now, in my eyes, that is on more and more places, little cultural, not islands, but cultural oases. An island is closed. An oasis is something where the caravan is going through and is getting new water, is getting new ideas, is getting, is exchanging something with other caravans and with the people there. So in cultural oases, that are places where the future will be developed. And I was just talking now on a physical level, on that level of our physical needs. But the most important is actually the development of our ideas, of our talents. Because we can't just to build up a world like this without learning something. We have to learn and to learn and to learn all our life to develop a new world, so that never ends. And I have the feeling, with my 64 years now, I have the feeling I'm just at the beginning. I'm every day learning, and I have every day even more question and more question and more question. How can we come out of this situation? And in this sense also, I must say that this is a personal experience. My grandfather, he asked me when I was a child. And then later, when I was a youngster and then an adult, he asked me, why are you on earth, Uwe? Why are you on earth? What is your task? And he said again and again, the person who is not asking this question, what is my task on earth, can't really develop as a human being. What is my task on earth? Everybody comes with a task. Somebody with a big brain, somebody with a big heart, somebody with strong muscles, but everybody comes and brings a talent. Everybody is a genie to develop. It's a genie to develop. And how can we make sure that we amongst each other develop our genie? Everybody has a genie. And our task should be really to help each other to develop that capacity. Otherwise, we would have no possibility to come out of this of this darkness in which we are now sliding in, faster and faster sliding in. To give you a picture, imagine you're on a bateau, a sailing boat, with 3 pillars, with 3 masts, and you went through a storm, and the 3 masts, they are broken in that storm, all the sails, they are also ripped apart, and the steering system doesn't function anymore. So, and now you are there, even the captain went overboard. So what are you doing in that moment? You have a meeting, a crisis meeting, and some people might say, oh, let's eat the rest of the food, let's dance, and okay, when the next storm comes, then we all will die. And so let's just enjoy our time with the last resorts which we have. And others might say, no, we will prepare ourselves now for the future. Who of you is a carpenter? Maybe there's only one carpenter. Okay, you are now responsible for fix the wood, to fix the mast, and you get now some people of the ship, young, strong men, you get them in the same time and train them in to repair this, all the wooden structure. And who of you is able to repair the sails, the ripped sails? Who of you can saw to repair that? And there's maybe just also one person. So that person gets the task of repairing the sails. And at the same time, teaching a group of people who help how to repair the sails. Who is the technician? The next question. For repairing this steering system. And also he gets some people to train in. Who can create some cards for navigation? Yeah. So we need to prepare ourselves to repair our ship, to repair our earth, but in the same time to train ourselves for the storms, which will be even stronger, much, much stronger. And I tell you, the storm which we have in the moment is just the beginning. But are we prepared really to create a new world? Do you have a plan B when it starts to fall apart now, our economic system, and all the money is gone? So we should actually now already take our money off the bank and put it into places which are creating the future. Put your money into the farm. Put your money into a solar system. Put your money into a kindergarten. And everything what is helping us to survive mankind. That is needed now. And not doing it just for oneself, but doing it for the community, doing it for mankind and this earth. That is needed. We can't carry on egoistically. Everybody is just looking after themselves, not in a conventional way and not in an alternative way. To look after oneself is just an egoism, or group egoism if that is done by a group and is just looking after itself. Myself, I'm proposing really this cultural oasis, this future villages, and in such a way that people on the land work together with people in the cities. We need new communities in the city which develop a new culture, but which are closely connected with farm communities on the land. That is what we have now to build up. And now I like to say also, what is when the money system breaks together? What do we do then? We just make ourselves money. We can make money. You and I, we can make money. Because what is money? Money is an agreement amongst us. And for us adults, we need a consciousness to have money. An animal can't do anything with money. A small child also not. They are just playing with it. But money is an agreement amongst adults. That is the agreement amongst adults. We have to create that. And I tell you now a little story from my community, and then a little story also of a community of Sardin. In my community in East Germany, that village which I built up, we had a lot of hands, we had a lot of brains, we had even machines, but we didn't have money enough. So I created a system, not a money in the old sense, but a counting system, basically Excel datei, where everybody had an account, and we could sell something to each other, and then somebody got a minus and somebody got a plus. Yeah. At the end, everything was zero. You can imagine if somebody said something for 100 and the other person buys something for 100. So one has 100 plus and the other person 100 minus. So that is that moment, if a transaction takes place, this number is also exchanged. But that number under the bottom line is zero. So we did that, but I did another thing on top. I said every transaction we take 5% off, and that 5% goes into a cultural fund to pay the kindergarten, to pay seminars, to pay a lecture or whatever. So in that moment, that our community went really forward. And with this possibility, with our own accounting system, our hands, they could work again. Our brains, they could also work again. Our machines, they were running again. So we were not completely dependent on the money from outside. And that was just our small community. But on Sardine, for example, 10 years ago or 12 years ago now, when we had this world economic crisis, on Sardinian, there was hardly any money left. You know how that works with money today. That is the big centers of money like Tokyo, London, New York, Frankfurt. That is like a magnet, and all the money moves in this direction. And the periphery, like Sardine, or also the Balkan countries, they are suffering heavily. There's hardly any money left because there the money goes into this big financial centers. So on Sardine, they didn't have money, and they started also a counting system, and they started, and that is called Sardex from Sardinian. And now there are more than 4,000 companies which are taking part in that. There are more than 100 million turnover. And I tell you, in that time when the crisis was really gross, this little system saved somehow the economy of Sardinia, because there was suddenly parallel in a new accounting system. And that is something which we also should consider now, to establish parallel. An accounting system amongst us, and if the system breaks together tomorrow, we can just carry on. We just can carry on with our economy. The hands, they are not standing still because we don't have money. The brain is not standing still, and the machines, because we have our own accounting system. And with this cultural fund, which I started then, we gave this money away really to the cultural things. It was not that the people had to beg for it. Like today, we are in a situation that all the people which are artists, especially now in the Corona time, you know how many artists they are going bankrupt now. One after the other, the little business go bankrupt. The music groups go bankrupt. Yeah, and they're all begging for money. But that should be the opposite. We should back the artists. We should back the people who are coming up with new ideas to develop them now, new ideas for the future. But this is destroyed now. The art, the new ideas, one is really suppressing them. That are the people which can't survive today. Especially that what we are needing now to come out of this terrible situation. So imagine now these people would get a free money to develop new ideas, to develop talents, to develop music, to develop also joy amongst us, that we can go forward and not that we are not dependent on this big money system. Maybe just to say also that our money system, many economists, conventional economists, they are really talking about a new reset. I don't know if you ever heard about the new reset. You might have heard of the World Economic Forum in Davos, where all the rich people come together. They are now talking officially about a new reset. They are talking now about a new system, digital system, money system, but not in that sense I talked here now before, but they talked about a digital money system from Google and so on, which will give everybody to us a possibility of using this account. But I tell you, we are then even more controlled. Cash money doesn't exist anymore after that. And we are completely controlled. And if you are not in line, like in China now, you know, everything is completely counted there. If you are not in line, you are not getting points, or you're getting minus points. Everybody has is registered in China, and your behavior will be counted. If you go over by red, traffic light red, people take points from you. If you're not reading the right newspaper, the points of your account will be reduced, and so on. That is in China already reality, and here indirectly that is also reality already. So we can just wait until that comes, or we can also start already to build up a plan B amongst ourselves. And another thing I would like to share with you, where do we get our ideas from? Do we think them just theoretically up, intellectually? Or how is it with our ideas? I tell you, the future is there already. And that is now maybe something very personal, but try to get it as or allow to that idea now minimum as an idea, allow this as an idea. I say the future is there already in the cloud of the spiritual world. All the future is there already. Only we are too blind of getting these ideas. We are not ready yet. We are not prepared for getting these ideas. But we cannot prepare ourselves through a new kind of thinking, that we are not just thinking intellectually, but that we are in the first place observing the reality ourselves, not getting our meaning from the media, because when we look around, everybody of us has a certain meaning to Trump, a meaning to China, a meaning to Corona or whatever. but is that really that what I experience, or is that what the media tells us? Is that really all what you are thinking now about Trump, about China, about Russia, or whatever? Is that really your own experience, or is it just hammered into us via the media? For example, also the system of economic growth. For the last, all our life, the media told us we need economic growth every day. We need economic growth, we need economic growth. Yeah. And if there is no economic growth, yeah, we will lose our working places and so on. We hear it every day. But is that a reality? Look into nature. The tree grows how high? In economic life today, in our capitalistic system, the tree is growing into the sky, even into the sky, up to the stars, because it never stops. In nature, everything stops after a certain height. And that should be in economy also with money. But people don't allow to die something or to stop something. In nature, everything is growing, standing, and then it's dying again. That should be in economy also. And in economy, that means there's a certain development, and then money has to die also. Money has to die. And that has to die into the cultural life. What do I mean with that? I give you a picture of a potato. If you put a potato in springtime, early spring, into the ground, what will happen to this potato? They come, new little potatoes come, grow out of it, but the old potato will die away, will be rotted away, the old potato. But that gives many new potatoes. So the old has to die away in order that something new can come about. Really imagine this potato, you offer this potato into the ground and that will die away. But that gives 10 times or 20 times new potatoes. Mm. And that's the same we have to do in economy. We grow something up, and then the result of this can only directly eat a certain amount, and we should always take aside a certain amount as a seed for the future. And in economy, with the money, we shouldn't use everything up. We should always put in by side a certain amount for the future, for the schools, for the kindergartens, for culture, new culture, for the development of mankind. And today we don't like that at all, because we think that is a waste. We don't like that really. Mm-hmm. And you know what happens with this money today? We have more than enough money. We have incredible amounts of money. That money is used for speculation. More than the half of everything what we are buying, if it is a cup or a stilo or whatever, more than the half of that cost goes directly or indirectly into the speculation world. And in the speculation world now, there's by now around 70 times more money is circulating than in the real economy. Around 70 times more than in the real economy. There is enough money around. And with this speculation, or the speculation people, they are even working against us. They're working, for example, I give you an example. Maybe you heard of the Devirat. Devirat, that is a system of speculation. That is basically, that is the insurance which you can make on something like a firm, if that firm succeeds or not. If a country succeeds or not, you can bet on it. That is a betting system. And there are people now, they are betting millions and billions of dollars and euro if a firm exists further or not. They're speculating on a shutdown of whole countries. Imagine this stupid things, this criminal thing that is allowed today, that is quite officially. People are betting on our fall down. And they do everything with media and so on that we really finally fall down. So our society is completely ill. And our government, they are really tight generally in this system already. This money or this wealth, which we all create together, that should be with the people and should be used for the development, really for the development. I'm not talking now giving the money out with like the water chain to give everybody the same. I'm not a communist, but what I'm saying is that we need this wealth of our work that needs to go into the development of our children, of ourselves, in a new system of health, a system of health which is not governed by the pharmaceutical industry, but it is governed by responsible doctors. Responsible doctors, I mean that they look to you individually. They look to you, what do you need, why you are ill, because every illness has a reason. They look quite individually to you, and they're not treating you with that what the pharmacy tells. Okay, we need sometimes pharmacy, no question, but in the center should be the development of you, of mankind. That should be in the center. And everybody needs a different treatment. The same illness, but maybe you need a completely different treatment than I needed, because it has other causes. So this money which is there, which is really there, needs to go into the development of mankind, education, and also in our ecology to build up the humus again. And so earlier we are managing to step out of the system, to build something parallel up. So more we have a chance that at least a small part of society comes through. And I'm convinced our society is completely on the way to break together, completely. Like also before, the old Indians, they were breaking together, but the seed of the old Indians, the Persians took over the seed of that society. And then the Persians broke down. And then the seed of their development, the Egyptians took that on and developed the Egyptian culture further. But also they became, you could say, not healthy because they were corrupt also finally. Yeah. And so they went under, and finally the Greek came, and the Romans, they took on the advantage, and also they went under, and now we are in Europe, we got the seed of that times before us, but now also our society is breaking together. And the question is, what kind of seed do we pass on for the future? The seed of big concrete buildings, of let's say of stock markets, of humus, of a soil which is deteriorating? Shall we just pass that on and fight? Everybody is fighting against each other. Or shall we pass on some new ideas that people can grow again, can develop? So that is our task actually on Earth, to develop, and that is not just serious, but also that I tell you, that brings joy. Also, if it is hard, every new thing that we want to bring about, we will feel also resistance. We will have a lot of resistance when we bring something new. That is also a spiritual law. Resistance is there when you want to bring a new life. Like when you give birth to a baby, there's also a resistance, and that belongs to life. But on that we are growing. With every resistance we are growing. And even if you start something and you are failing, use it as a training possibility. So long you have done it with the right heart, you do something for the world, because that is a reality in the spiritual world already. The force of doing something good for this for mankind and this earth. That is a reality already. So even if you're failing, the next time you are doing it better. And then even if you're failing again, the next time you do it even better. And in this doing it, you will prepare yourself also maybe to become one day a minister of agriculture, minister of education, minister of health, or whatever. And you should prepare yourself for that. Our government now, egal in which country, I think they are not ready of going a new way, like I try to describe this. But yeah, I ask you, with me, with the people, wherever you find them, look out, where can you create a new world, and start with a farm, and start with a kindergarten. And of course, start with yourself, of being optimistic, even so our world is dramatically sliding down. But still, don't forget the joy, because to build on a new world, that is really a joy. So I like to stop with that here, and I'm sure you will have some questions, and I'm open to that. And by the way, Sabine will also tell you in a moment, by the way, I have the possibility either tomorrow afternoon already, or even better, Wednesday morning or Wednesday lunchtime, I could meet one or the other of you who might be interested to discuss this directly with me, this kind of questions. So Sabine, it's your turn now to guide us through the question time.
Thank you, Uwe. We don't have at this moment questions. We can, I'm asking people if they want to pose a question. We can now take the question, but maybe the first one to ask you something. I read recently this piece of article from a famous futurist who is being asked by very, very rich people what will happen. Actually, no, they are quite convinced that it will happen, like this doomsday where society and economy will collapse. And they're preparing for it, like making, day doom vault or whatever preppers do, secluding themselves in something very safe, but they realize they have a great problem. They would hire people, they would hire security to guard them from, you know, everybody else who doesn't have much and who is left out in the cold. And they realize that they cannot control these people. After society and every fabric that holds society, like economy, law and everything, they cannot control people, and they cannot like control the people they hired as security. They would be left, you know, for them to take whatever they want. So my question to you is how to, this also poses a great threat if you have like this, you made, let's talk of course in future, if you made a certain eco-village or community that is self-sufficient, how do you guard yourself from, you know, this Mad Max scenario where you have people who have nothing and then realize that you have like everything? It's almost completely that, you know, seems impossible to me. It seems that you have to have like this Mad Max village where you are secure, you know, with you know, arms or whatever. So how can you, you know, preserve your security, your food, or whatever you cherish in that kind of environment? Turn your microphone, please.
Sabine, first of all, like I said before, I'm not for self-sufficiency. Even so, we are feeding ourselves a lot. But the aim is at the end also to feed so much people as possible. I think we also have to learn to share, even if we have at that moment much, much less, but that we share that with people and to give them also possibilities maybe to help on the farm or wherever, to show them also how to come out. Yeah. And we must now already prepare ourselves in a peaceful way. By the way, my communities, we are not having arms. We are not having arms. That was this neighbor of me who is getting the arms, and I'm not proposing that. Yeah, and but we should create wherever possible good relationships. Everybody should develop now already good relationship also to the most horrible neighbor or horrible colleague. Still develop a good relationship to those people. That is what we needed now. And you know, in the moment, there are still 80% of the people which are believing that what the media tells us. Help already also your family, your friends, and so on, to observe yourself the situation. For example, Corona that exists. I'm not saying that exists not. But is that really so dramatic, Corona? Is it really so dramatic to close down so many small businesses, which are now taken over by the rich? We have now, I know in Germany already, we have many more suicide already, many more suicide because of Corona shutdowns than we have in reality Corona deaths. That is terrible, and that is in Germany. I tell you, in the poor countries, this year or every day, thousands of children are dying now because of the Corona shutdowns. Thousands of children are dying. Every year, this year, millions of children will die already. And that all for our health. And that is what the media tells us. And they're keeping us away. We're just thinking Corona, 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 and not seeing this world situation. I was talking already September last year about that we are just in front of an economic crash. You could look into the stock markets and especially in the derivative markets. You could see it already, how it goes upside down there. And that was clear already that we are in front of a crash. And now with Corona, they are just pulling our minds away and preparing next to it, as what I said, also the great reset for the world economy. But that is a reset not for us. We will be really controlled. And they are playing now, I tell you, in this chaos in which we are now heading in. They're preparing, they are playing the good guys now that they are saving us. But what are they saving? Maybe our physical life, maybe. But our freedom is gone completely. Now already, there's hardly anything left of our fundamental human rights. And I think they try it, of course, for quite a while. They will still, for the next few months, they will also heavily try it with more and more lies to keep us believing that what they are telling us. But we have to wake up, and not just to wake up and go into demonstrations, but we have to create now parallel, very fast, new relationships amongst ourselves, and especially up with the farmer. We have to do that very quick now, so that we are not ending up in this great chaos. Is that answered so far for you?
Well, not quite, because working with people and knowing people, of course, there are some people you can reason with, and there are some people you cannot reason and won't take, no for an answer, and won't take, community better than their own better life. I also have some experience in building communities, and what I noticed, and I'm interested if you have this kind of maybe experience, and how you choose people you will work with. I'm convinced that there are, like, if you are building a community that has, a future, you have to carefully choose people, not just only for their skills, but for their mindsets. And in every community, in every meeting, for example, that you had in your building, when you have a tenant ensemble, I always notice there is a few people who always try in a way to sabotage, or, subconsciously or consciously try to dismantle, efforts of others. Some are doing that for some, I don't know what is their motivation, and sometimes I really don't care. What I care is about, advancing and making community better, and finding answers to questions and solution to problems. And then you have people who are, going against every logic and reason, and trying to sabotage that kind of behavior in various ways, Sometimes you can see that, bluntly, but sometimes it's very, under the, very under and very hidden. So I'm asking you for your opinion about, how to choose people, and without people who are in a way, toxic for that kind of communities. Turn on the microphone, please.
First of all, I must say a basic or fundamental democracy doesn't work. What does I mean with that? That means that one person, one vote, that doesn't work in a community, not at all. Every community has three different kind of people. The one group is the so-called core group, which is responsible for feels responsible. And when I'm in the community, I ask, when I come for giving advice, I ask them, one of the first questions I ask them, who of you would stay on if the place is burning down, and there is no insurance and there is maybe for 1 year no money and so on. Who still will stay on of you? So there are generally only very few, sometimes nobody would stay on. And if nobody would stay on, I say to them, stop your community. And if there's a little group, I say, okay, now I like to talk with you. And because there are those who are also signing, for example, a credit of 1 million or whatever. And the rest, why shall they decide for a credit of 1 million if they are not able to stay on when there is a big fire or whatever? And one has to accept this. I say this to any community. One has to accept this, that the community has different groups of people. The next group would be the group of the people which are very nice and work also a lot and so on, but they are not able to take up the responsibility for the community. They are not yet ready or whatever, or they are too old and like to go into the second line. So they are very important. And then a third group of a community that are the friends, the customers, and so on. And every community, every business needs all the three groups. The core group, which takes on the responsibility, but really the responsibility, the co-workers, the second group, and the friends, the third group. Every business and every community needs the three. And alternative communities, very often they think they can wish this reality away. That doesn't work. A basic democracy where everybody who comes just for 3 weeks has the same vote as the person who is signing the million credit. One has to accept this. So that is one thing. And then now more to your question, Sabine. How do I choose? I personally have a good nose for it when people are coming out of selfish reason or really out of bigger reason. A selfish reason would be, for example, I come because I don't manage outside anymore. Mm-hmm. Or a selfish reason would be, I want to live cheaper. Yeah. Or a selfish reason would be, oh, the terrible world outside, I don't like it, I hate it, and I don't manage anymore, and so on. No, we should still love all mankind, even though mankind does a lot of mistakes. And we are there to do something for the world, not we as a group, or sogar, I would say, group egoism, make group egoism, and now we save ourselves. That is not the reason. And you smell this very quick, why they are there. So I chose the people who, especially who wants to do more than for them to do something for themselves. And then that is like a side effect, that you live nicely, that you eat nicely, that you have nice social contact, but that is a side effect. The main reason is we are together to do something good for the world. That is the reason. Yeah. So to your question, how I choose the people.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer, because I think that is very important. Like the success of any community or every endeavor that is based on people. I think it's successful as people are open, successful, and have the same values. If they share values and they choose same set of rules to obey in a way, I think that is successful. And of course, choosing right people with the right mindset and right motivation, as you said yourself. I think every skill can be acquired, but if you are not cooperating with your co-workers, fellow villagers or whatever, you are destined to to a failure in a way. So anyway, I don't know. People are a bit shy tonight. Nobody. I'm
No,
talking.
I'm just waiting. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm just waiting for my turn. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's pose a question, Radmilo, please, because I'm tired of hearing my own voice.
Yeah.
Somebody else can take in.
Okay. I'm not sure that food security is such a big issue. You can have meat with a couple of rabbits. You can have in your hometown garden with what's the word? I'm sorry, chard, Swiss chard, blitva, or something like that, which renew itself. I think that should be shared, but food security is not such a big issue. I have rabbits, chickens, so I have enough for myself. I could share, and I will share if need be. But I think mindset should be changed. I think that's the real issue here. That people are too selfish, and as I said before, capitalism is a way to disaster. So I think, Sabina, you can have your own garden with some shards or carrots or whatever. I think most of people can do that, but it's our mentality that's I don't know, leading us to disaster. So I'm interested in Mr. Uwe's thoughts about that. I don't know if I made myself clear. So if you need any clarification, just say it.
Sure. The first thing is really a change of our mindset. That is the first thing. I started with a farm because mostly people start really with physical things, and they don't understand that really everything starts here. And with my head, with another thinking. But coming back just briefly to your idea, we could feed ourselves. I'm not agreeing. You could do it maybe. You have some experience now with your rabbits. But even you, I question if you would be able to feed yourself, because the main thing what we need is really a grain.
And yeah, I like in those.
Yeah, and we need grain. And how would you can't grow grain really enough in the city? Maybe on your balcony you can grow some vegetables and also some rabbits, but I tell you, you can't. The city people can't feed themselves at all. They will be starving. There needs to be a relationship to the farmers, and that should be built up now already. And that is very important. And in this sense, I like to tell you also a little. You maybe all heard already of permaculture. Yeah, and there are very good ideas. And I know permaculture since 40 years now. I work with the groups of permaculture always together. They even said in England, my farm, which I developed there, that was in England at my time, the permaculture farm. They came every month with a big bus to show our farm and said, look, that is ideally permaculture. But I said, dear people, that is not permaculture. I'm doing biodynamics here. And you know what the difference is between permaculture?
I'm sorry, I'll just interrupt you. You're absolutely right. I also need chain of supply so I can have my animals. So you're absolutely right. So please continue. I'm sorry for interruption.
Yeah. So, and just to tell you this difference with permaculture, I really like the ideas, and even they took many ideas from me into their book. The water ideas, for example, they come mainly from me. But still, I'm not a permaculture person. I am a biodynamic person. With permaculture, you put ideas together. You get an idea from Africa, an idea from Asia, an idea from there. Very nice ideas. And you put them together like a car. You put the system together. And the difference to biodynamic is, biodynamic you understand from within. You are not putting parts together, but you have automatically on a biodynamic farm, you have automatically compost, you have animals, you have vegetables, you have grain, you have fruits, you have hedges, you have forest, you have a lake, and so on. You have everything. And try to understand it from within. You smell your soil, you smell your ground, you hear your birds, and you have to understand it from within. With permaculture, that is for me still too much a scientific approach, like also our economic approach today. That is a scientific approach. We have even economics. We have to understand from within. I have to feel it consciously, of course. I have to develop a consciousness, but I have to feel it from within. Where do I stand? What is missing now in my economy, or what is missing on my farm? I should smell it in the compost already if I have too many animals or too little animals. If they are fed rightly and so on, I can smell it. Yeah? And we have to understand it from within. Like when you are in a family also, you're not making every day a scientific analysis if everybody is okay, but you get a feeling of it if your wife or your children, if they are still all right or not. Yeah, and to balance this somehow out. Yeah, and that is, just briefly spoken, that is very important in biodynamic, to make an organism, really an organism, where everything is, every part of the farm, also the social part, which is functioning together and is supporting life. And with that farm, you will have, at the end, you can also build up your humus again. And just by the way, also, you know that this rising of CO2 is due only half to the oil, burning of oil. The other half, the rising of CO2, is because we destroyed our humus. And humus is basically carbon. And if the soil is mineralizing, the carbon is going into air in connection with oxygen. It is now in air, CO2. And we should bring the CO2 down again to the ground through building up humus again. Just as by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's part of it, but there's also too much farm animals like cows, and they produce much of methane. So I
Also,
think it's too much meat consumption, right?
Generally, you are right there, especially if you have too many animals of given ground, and if you just keep your animals on concrete and so on, you are right. But if you, for example, if you have a biodynamic farm where you have not too many and not too little animals, yeah, I need the cows to build up humus. I need the cows. Yeah, you imagine you have 1 ton of grass, you make compost out of 1 ton of grass, or you feed this grass through a cow and make compost of this dung. I think everybody can understand how much more richness is in this dung, with all the enzymes, the microorganisms, the worms and everything. How much more value you have in this compost of a cow than you would just make compost out of grass. Yeah. But you are right in saying we have too many animals, and if we think we have to eat everyday meat, I tell you out of own experience, my farm in England, we had the right amount of, we had exact the same land for our 200 people, like all the average English person had. We had on our land, we had also forest, we had a lake, we had roads and everything. So that was really the average, like it was in England. And we had cows and sheep and a horse and chicken, yeah, not too many, not too little, so that we could really grow up humus again. And you know how often we had meat in average? I mean, I must say I was vegetarian at that time, completely vegetarian. Today I eat little meat, but I eat meat. But at that time I was vegetarian.
I'm not.
But I'm not saying everybody should vegetarian, not at all. Yeah, but the reality showed us, not a theory, the reality showed us we had one time, sometimes 2 times a week meat, not more. That is what the natural reality showed us, not a theory and not a certain outer economy, but to keep the soil healthy. So we have only 1 or 2 times a week meat, not more. Yeah, and I was at that time vegetarian. Okay, my meat, somebody else could have my meat and eat a little bit more. And okay, in future we will have many more vegetarians, but at the moment I would suggest also the vegetarians. Okay, your piece of meat goes to the people who still need a little bit more. Just by the way, I suggest sometimes to people which are too much in the clouds, I think it's good if you eat a piece of meat to come down to ground again. And other people which are too much on the ground, I say sometimes maybe you should better vegetarian. Yeah.
Thank you, Radmilo.
And thank Mr. Uwe. It was very enlightening. So thank you for your answer.
Yeah, we have more questions. In the meantime, Jasmina Cvetic asked, in the Great Reset you mentioned, there is a lot to talk about investing more in strengthening communities and in health and in education, as opposed to the current situation which brought us to this point. Also, it seems that the vaccine for corona is on the way, which we can expect will lead to relaxing the current restrictions on our basic right. Do you think there are sincere changes, or do you think that these are sincere changes or that they will be sufficient? I'm not sure I understand this question. Maybe if Jasmina can a bit clarify what she meant by this. I don't know if you understood. She asked about corona and that we can expect it will relax the current restrictions. And do you think that these are sincere changes or that they will be sufficient?
To corona, first of all, I think that exists, and that for many people that is also a terrible flu. Yeah, and I have many friends which are doctors and work also directly with corona patients. I have just in front of me also a doctoress. She is also working in a hospital where they have corona patients. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist at all, but I know also the statistics which show, for example, for Germany. I must talk now for Germany. Switzerland is also, I don't know the situation in Serbia now, but I saw just 3-4 days ago a statistic of all the people which went into emergency departments in the hospitals from 2019 and 2020, this year. And at the beginning of the year, up to March 2020, the two statistics, 2019 and 2020, were nearly the same. And then came the lockdown, and the entrance into the hospitals for emergency, they really dropped down completely. Yeah, there was only 1/3 of that number which normally went into hospital. My wife, she went also at that time into hospital. She needed an operation, and I asked, well, where are all the people? Because it was empty. They said nobody is coming. They were working. They had no work in that hospital. But in the same time, they kept up the measurements, the lockdown. They kept up the lockdown even over summer. There were a lot of restriction. Instead of letting, especially the young people, let them catch the corona. Why not? To get the immunity. Yeah, they didn't allow this. They didn't allow it. And now in autumn, that is quite normal that you get more people with flu. Very normal. Also in Germany and Switzerland, up to now, that is not more people come into hospital than the other years. Not more. But they are making a chaos, I tell you, or a drama, the media, that is rising now, the number of people which come in, they're rising, and they are really making the people afraid, really afraid. And as I said you also before, we have already more suicide in Germany with the measurement because of the measurements of corona than people with corona are dying. And that is a terrible situation. And people are still believing that the government wants to do just the best for us. And the side effects of this vaccination, by the way, maybe I don't know if you know, but the new vaccination that has nothing to do with the old form of vaccination. That is a vaccination which is based on gene manipulated genes. Yeah, and that is extremely dangerous. With plants, we are not allowing it, that we gene manipulate our plants, but with we are allowing it with our own medicine, which we are just allowing them to put into us. And even if we have only 1 of 1,000 people which will get problems with this vaccination, which they say that minimum there will be 1 out of 1,000 will have problems because of this vaccination, you can imagine that we have 1 of 1,000. That means for every million people, there will be 1,000 people which will really have problems with this vaccination. That means we have many more problems with the vaccination than they might heal even. But how does it come that the government and the pharmacy, they are telling us again and again that it's only over if we have the vaccination? They try to hold us the situation. They try to keep it up, the situation, up to the moment when the vaccination is coming. And from my eyes, dear friends, that is a lie. Mm-hmm. I know many doctors, I know many people which are really making research on this, but they are not heard. For example, in Switzerland, I belong to the organization. I started an organization in Switzerland where we made a referendum against the emergency law of the government. Yeah. And with this, we have now 80 doctors which are joined us in Switzerland, and they wrote and writing again and again letter to the government, and nobody is hearing them. And if they come through, the government and the media say direct that are people of conspiracy, and they are belong to the right wing and so on. even myself, people said always I'm a person from far left, and now suddenly I'm a person from far right, because I'm saying that what I'm telling you now. And when the people from Davos, World Economic Forum, the new Great Reset, for 50 years they are doing this organization already, and each year they are telling us they want to abolish poverty and to do something for the environment. And now suddenly, why shall we believe suddenly these people? And I tell you what's going on now economically. The small business, one after the other, is closing now. Amazon is going up like mad because the people are now buying the stuff with Amazon. And Amazon made, since March until now, the actions of Amazon rise by 700%. And the reason why we have in Europe only 6% economic go down is only because the big companies like Amazon went very much up. But the small and medium businesses, they are really suffering and suffering. And now, in this time, the big money is buying all the business, the little businesses. So that is a crime, really. I tell you, a real crime. And there was another thing you said just with the vaccination, but you said another thing. Can you repeat that, what you said on your question? Education. You know, this education, what took place now, that was a lot via media, Zoom media. And it's okay for me now that we do this as adults. But if children have to make an education over Zoom media, personally, I think that is a crime. And all the people, I know this, my son, he is also a teacher. He says all the people, the half of the class, they really heavily fall behind. They didn't manage really to pick that up with the media. And that is, they are really, he feels in his class also, there's a lot of psychological damage was made. But now in this time, the Google and so on, they try to push a new kind of education via media. And I personally think that is a crime. We need to put our children into connection with reality and with real people, but not over the media. That is a no-go for me. But this new world order, they are pushing for this direction, I tell you, to control all of us. So please take it at least as a possibility, what I said, and don't believe automatically what the media tells you. There's a really...
Yes, we in Serbia, we are used to not believing everything we said, and we had, I think, a large portion of fake news over the decades and being like object of fake news. So we are, a lot of us are taking, you know, everything with a grain of salt. And this brings me to the next question that Maya...
Sorry, Sabrina, can I just thank for the answer, because I asked the question. And
okay. Yeah. I wanted you to pose the question, but you probably didn't hear me at that point.
No. He started responding, and that's exactly what I expected, because the reason for my question was because every time there is it seems to me at least that every time there's a pressure point where things need to be changed, that the system comes back with kind of proposed solutions which are not radical enough, which are kind of like smokes in front of our eyes. And I just want to see if this seems to be the case this time as well, because it's also in this, as we mentioned, this great reset, all the talk is about strengthening communities, building resilience, etc., investing in health, but it doesn't seem to go far enough. as much as it's required. So thank you very much for the answers. That's kind of what I expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmina. Maja Đurić, which I know very well, she has a small organic farm with her partner. She asked, did you have a chance to meet some Serbian farmers? And if you did, what were your observation of the capacities and challenges they face in remaining productive and sustainable? So, do you have any opinion about Serbian farmers or something specific that you saw, like not like an outsider, but somebody who came, here and maybe saw something specific in this area?
I have seen a little bit the farms here in Serbia, especially two biodynamic farms I have seen now. But of course, I've seen also the big conventional farms. And with the organic or biodynamic farms, what I found, there is still too little connection between the customers and the farmers. That needs to be improved. So knowing Germany and Switzerland and many other countries, so the development between the farmers and the customers, the consumers, is much more developed. And that, I think, that is a task, especially of the consumers, not so much really also of the farmer, but mainly of the consumer. Put yourself together, ask more for the right food, pay also the right price. That is by the way, that is a question of priority. That is only for few people really that they can't afford it. Generally, one can afford it, the organic food. That is really a question of priority. Maybe I have a little bit smaller car or whatever, or one laptop less, and then I can do it. Or I don't buy any more alcohol or sugar. So then I can also have that. So that is mainly, and I must say, for example, my one son, he has 3 little children, and he has not much money, and everybody would say normally I couldn't afford that, but he can, because it is a priority for him. So that is the question. And if people it's very often that people which have the money, but which are hiding behind this question, they're saying, but they are the people who can't afford this. And because behind the stupid excuse, they're saying, I'm not doing it because other people can't do it. So we need really, that is what I see here, we need really a much bigger movement from the consumers, so that they can value it, that they go into a new relationship with the farmer. So that is needed here. And but please don't wait for the farmers. They have more than enough to do. That is the area where you as a consumer, you are asked to do something. I ask you to do that much more in this direction.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered Maja's question. Nevena Savic asked, can you share some advice on starting a farm economy? Some basic advice that you have. Can you
I don't understand this, a farm economy. What do you mean by farm economy?
I don't know, maybe Nevena, can you hear us? Can you maybe clarify a bit your question? What is farm economy?
I wanted to ask about small scale economy. For example, I moved to a countryside. I volunteered on permaculture farm and also a bit on biodynamical farm. I have some basic knowledges and I would like to start a small scale farm business. So I wanted to ask you, do you maybe have some basic advices? I have something on my mind, but you're a man of great knowledge, so maybe to share something.
My first advice there is to make a good education in this for farming and gardening. Because the more, I must say, the most permaculture gardens, they're not at all run professionally. That is, people think they make some weekends a course and then they can tell other people already what to do. But have you ever seen in a shop, health food shop already permaculture products? I think you don't see them because they don't manage even to feed themselves, because the people are generally not trained. And I give the biggest advice, please train yourself. Go, even if you go to a conventional market garden or to a conventional farmer, but train yourself, get the skills, and then put your permaculture or biodynamic teaching on top. But make a training, because otherwise that is just a playing ground. Sorry to be so hard with that. And then once you know your field, then you should always invest also quite a time also in public relationship to build completely new market strategy up, where you work together with the customers and not try to come out of this competition, stupid competition area. Because also the most organic farmers today, they're in the same mill as the conventional farmers. They are competing, and the food market chains, they try to press down their prices and so on, try to develop other chains, and maybe also in this direction, because the chains, supermarket chains, they are making money and try to rob the consumer and try to rob the farmer. It's very understandable that one makes direct connection, but finally I must say we need a trader, but a trader not in the old sense. We need one which is a mediator. The trader in the future is a mediator. He should really mediate between the needs of the farmer and the needs of the customers, so that both sides understand each other. And ideally, he is paid by the customers, this trader, and is doing it as a service for the customer. And that is also not good if everybody is driving out to the countryside, to their farm, and get their own stuff. There we make much more pollution there. But to organize it, the group in the city is organizing maybe somebody or a person who is doing it for them, driving out once a week, getting the stuff, and create distribution centers, different distribution centers in the city, and do it that way. But as I said, the first thing, train yourself, and otherwise that will be a playing ground, and you will be, after a certain while, you will be burnt out because you don't know your stuff. To give you an idea, my son, one of my sons, he is on a 120 hectare farm, and he is on that farm responsible for 14 hectares Gemüse, 14 hectare. He is growing for many thousand people vegetables, and he is doing it with 2 apprentices and 5 drug addicts. And that is enough, because he is very well organized and professional in that. Because I say this because very often people do, with the same number of people, they don't manage even a half a hectare. So that is really a question of education.
Thank you very much.
I believe we have one more question. Let me just see. Yes, from Olivera Nikolic. There is so many of CO2 releasing in our ozone envelope, and it is said that even if we decrease pollution, there is so much damage to our ozone layer that if we eliminate it or decrease it, the damage of UV rays will be even worse. And that what it does, and what do you think of a water draining system underground? under the farm fields to prevent drought. So she's afraid of UV rays will be even worse. And yeah, do we need the water draining system or some kind of water reservoir under the fields to prevent drought? And what is the way we can, deal with this problem in future, if this helps? And I believe that UV rays are stronger every year, that every year we have more and more skin cancer because of that. And of course, it also is affecting our crops. So what is your take on that?
So we should all take a gun and shoot ourselves. That is one possibility. Yeah.
The easiest way. Give us a not so easy solution.
So, and that is, I say this because there are many people who say, really, they say, or mankind should just leave the earth and everything would be good again. That is not the case. If mankind would leave our earth would fall apart. But that is another spiritual question. This earth and mankind belong strongly together. Yeah. But we ourselves, we separated ourselves from this earth, and we have to connect ourselves inwardly again with this earth. That is the first thing to do. Yeah. And
but I think what Oliveira is asking, and this is also my concern, like we put some things in motion. Climate crisis is upon us and we see changes. We have very warm November right now at this moment. And the agricultural techniques that we have at this moment are need to change. We need to adapt quickly. For example, in like 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't see these umbrellas, shading our crops. They were only there usually to keep the ice or something falling from the sky. And now if you want to have, a good crop production, you have to protect your crops from UV rays or, southern storms that can take all of your crops in one day or in 1 minute for that. So we know these old techniques, for biodynamic, organic growing, but at this moment we are going to face, future that is uncertain, and we don't know what kind of threats we are going to have to our agriculture and to our way of life. So do you think we need to develop these techniques, or technology can help us in that? Or do you think maybe, the answer is in the old species that people used to grow that were more resistant to this kind of threats, to grow more local species of fruits and vegetables to be able to resist such threats that we are going to for certainly be threatened by?
I had a certain purpose why I started my answer like that. Because first of all, I think that is not technology which saves us. That is our behavior or our mind towards nature. That has to come in the first place. We are sorry to say this, but we think really today we can, this technology can save everything. We need technology. I'm not against it. I'm really, I know many good technologies and I develop myself even technologies. But first I have to change and I have to get a new relationship to the climate. For example, with the climate movement. I know that climate movement quite well, and I went to many demonstrations. But this question is not so simple as most people think, to bring the CO2 down politically and so on. In the first place, I have to connect myself again with nature. I have to understand what it is. And I tell you why, for example. I'm a farmer and I'm advisor on, I have been around the world quite a bit, and I have seen deserts, and I have seen, I was working in Norway and on many, many different places. And I know that the climate, the microclimate is changing already according to your farm. If your farm has hedges, if your farm has a little forest, if your farm has also ditches with water and so on, you create a completely different environment than the neighbor farmers, which is just ripping out the hedges and so on. And you can, and I have seen it on, egal where in Africa, in Norway or Germany, wherever, Australia, I have seen it wherever I go to, you can really create a climate with your farm already. And that climate change which we have, that is not just CO2. That is CO2, that is for me like a thermometer, but that is not CO2. That is in the first place how we create our environment, our individual environment, and of course finally also how we do it on a bigger scale. And as I said it beforehand already, if we connect ourselves with an organic farm which is building up humus again, we are bringing down CO2 directly, and we can, with that farm, we can create already locally a change in the climate. And if we put ourselves together also with other people which are working abroad, for example, my friend, this is Hermann Pohlmann, he is bringing coffee over from Mexico, and he is supporting the farmers there, that they do it also in a biodynamic way. And we are creating in Switzerland and Germany, we are creating communities which are supporting the farmers there. Community supported agriculture for coffee. Yeah. And I think we should, on one level, we should do locally our farms, but we could or should also connect ourselves to a project somewhere abroad to give the ideas that what we develop here, that we can give these ideas also to other countries. And now to your question with drainage and so on. Yes, one of the biggest questions with climate has to do with humus, not just because of this CO2, but the soil where humus is going down is not holding the water so much, is mineralizing, is creating much more heat. You have a soil where, with a good humus layer, that is taking up much more the extremes of the climate, much more than a soil where you hardly have any humus in anymore. Look in the desert, there is it so you don't have humus, but there you have the extremes. You have, during night you have often frost, and during day you have extreme heat, because there's no soil which can balance that. So, and we have to create really with the soil, but also with the plants and so on. We have to create wherever we can another climate, another possibilities of balance. And in my eyes, the soil is a mirror of our social society. The soil is a mirror of our social society. If our soil goes down, that shows directly that the society is not able to be responsible to its own ground. And the government, they are not doing anything by themselves. They are just doing something if they are pushed to it. And over the last several decades, they are more pushed by the chemical industry than by the reasons of the ecologists. And now they start slowly to do something because people are awakening. but we should awake not just politically, but we should really connect ourselves personally also with projects. That doesn't mean that everybody has to become a farmer, but we should at least understand the basics of farming and in order to support the farm. And with your drainage question, okay, sometimes one has to drain. For example, I was developing even a draining system in Africa, in Egypt, because with the irrigation, the soil became more and more salty, and the water became also more and more salty because it was pulling in the water from the sea finally. And yeah, what shall we do? And I made a stupid, for them at the beginning, a stupid suggestion. And I said, you have to drain your ground in order just sometimes to irrigate your ground more than it needs so that it is washing out the soil, the salt in the soil. And then you put that into the greenhouses for, not for irrigation, but for evaporating. And you can get even the salt out of it again. Yeah. So that is, you can even, in deserts, you can make drainage systems. And in an area like here in Europe, or also in your next to the rivers where you had originally swamps, one should really consciously decide which area one keeps as a swamp and which one wants to keep as a agricultural ground. So we did a lot of damage in the past, but I think not necessarily to put it back now, a swamp, you can't create a swamp again, but at least that one is creating in that areas ditches and maybe also some little lakes or so. You could do a lot for the environment when you do that as a compromise.
Thank you. I will ask one more question and then we can wrap up. Alex Andrews asked if we buy ordinary land, how many years does it take for the land to become suitable for biodynamic cultivation, and in brief, how it is achieved? I will also share a forum that Zoran gave me, Zoran Petrov, about biodynamics, so everybody can visit that forum and maybe ask their questions about biodynamics. But I know it's a huge area, but in brief, can you maybe answer Alex's question about what are the steps to some farm to become biodynamic and suitable for this kind of agriculture? Can you unmute yourself, Uwe? We cannot hear you.
So you could say that is between 3 and 7 years you need to bring your to develop your soil for a biodynamic place, but that is just a theoretical figure. The 3 and 7 years, that depends really on how much this land is already damaged, and that depends on your methods. You can heal land much faster when you really do, for example, if you put a clover in and really try to enliven your soil again, making a lot of compost treatment and biodynamic treatment. So that is biodynamic treatment, that means homeopathic remedies for the soil. So you can do a lot. And I tell you another thing, that is, some people, they might laugh about it, but I tell you, in the first place, that is our relationship to the ground. Your relationship to the ground, that makes the biggest difference. You heard already of the gardeners with the green thumb. Yeah? That are the people which can really connect themselves with the ground, and they develop a feeling, what is it what this ground needs now? That is the most important, our development to the ground again. And I give you an example. you know, in the 80s, we had in Europe, we had really a forest dying period. Lots of forests were dying with acid rain and so on. And really many, many trees died. But people were puzzled, why is it that in the cities the trees are not dying or hardly any? They hardly died there. Why is that? So officially, I never found an answer to that, but I tell you my answer to that. That is because in the cities, the people are connected with their trees. There are many people around who are conscious about their trees. They love their trees. They see so little nature, and the trees in the cities, they are recognized. They are recognized by the people, and that kept them healthy. That kept them healthy. Look, this here you might smile, yeah, but think of your dog. You wouldn't take care of your dog. You don't recognize your dog anymore. He would suffer. With your children, you know it. If you don't take care of your children, if you don't take consciousness of your children, they are heavily, heavily suffering. Yeah? With the animals, we know it also. They are heavily suffering if they don't get our attention. But with the plants, we laugh about it because we are just so materialistic. No, but I tell you, also with the plants and with the soil, this earth, with the soil, with the plants, with the animal, needs desperately, desperately our attention. As we to each other should develop attention and the interest, that we start again to show more interest for each other, that we show more interest for the animals, that we show more interest for the plants and this earth. And that is needed. That is much more important than the political action. That is also what is needed. But we need in the first place a reality, a real relationship to each other again.
Thank you. It was very inspiring. If you look at the chat, you will see that people are giving their positive opinion and are really thrilled that you shared your experience with us. And I'll just add that all this that you're saying is accordance with this book that I'm reading right now. Probably you know about it. It's A Secret Life of Soil from Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird. They wrote it in the 80s and they went all over the world and they were in search of methods how to recuperate our soil and organic agriculture. And if anybody wants to read something good, I'm recommending these authors and their two books. One is Secret Life of Soil and other is Secret Life of Plants. And it gives like this really good insight of plant life and how plants and the soil is so much more that we think it is. So if you want Uwe, something else to add, this is the moment. I pasted the link where people can apply to meet you day after tomorrow in the center of Belgrade. And I'm asking just people to have understanding because we cannot have like more than 5 people in these meetings because of new measurements of corona. So they can use this link and they can leave their email and their name and a bit about themselves and why they would be interested in meeting you. So after actually tomorrow in the afternoon, we will notify them about the meeting place and all the other details of this meeting. And that's all I have to say for tonight. Uwe, if you want to say something more and say goodbye to all our listeners, you can put your microphone on. And maybe, I don't know if you have any, we didn't talk about this, sorry, but do you perhaps have some links for people to visit? Somebody asked about your project, so I pasted those 2 projects you sent me. one in Freiburg and other, sorry, but I forgot, but I pasted it, and they have it also on our web page in the news section, so they can follow that link and see your projects and things you worked on before.
Okay.
Uwe?
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. And just to say, look, the world never changed with the mass. Never wait for the mass. The world changed always through individuals which got a small group around them. So that is the power. Don't underestimate this. If you wait for the mass, that means only you are lazy. Sorry to say this, but we can start, everybody of us can start, and everybody in his or her field can start to make something new. And that is the right power. And since we don't get the strength anymore from our families, from our countries, and from our businesses and so on, we are the person, or we are the people individually who have now to help the family to become a family again. We are now responsible for our state to become a good state again. We are responsible for our firm to become a good firm again. Yeah? So that is now up to us to create the future. Don't wait for them up there, but we have to do it. And just to say, whoever wants to know a little bit more, just write directly to me, and I can give you some links or some connections. I have all over the world connections, and or I can put you together over some links or some YouTube films with some other ideas, or my villages which I built up. Just write to me and you have it. And also Zoran here on that farm, you might also contact him if you want to build up something with his farm here and so on. Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope I can see one or the other tomorrow or on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ciao.